Hello, hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Liberian Girl Unfiltered. I'm your host, Stephanie Salamatu. I am a proud Liberian girl. I'm a mama of two, entrepreneur, world traveler, storyteller, and now, are you ready for this? I'm looking for the drum roll. Ba, 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 ba. Your favorite new podcaster. Now I'm putting it out there. Yes, I said favorite. I'm your favorite new podcaster. And yes, y'all, I am officially outside with a mic. Woohoo! So now listen, starting a podcast at 50, that alone should tell you something, right? That it's never too late to reinvent yourself, to try something new, to use your voice, or to walk boldly into the next chapter of your life. Whew. I wish I had a little drum roll to go. But you know what? This is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been encouraged to do this by so many people, and guess what? I'm doing it. I decided, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be like Nike, and I'm just gonna do it. But so before we even get into anything, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Liberia, West Africa, the little country also known as Sweet Liberia, Mama Liberia, all of that. I was born in Liberia, raised in the US. Specifically, I was raised in the Maryland area. Uh, like we said, the DMV area. We're very bougie in that area. We don't claim all of Maryland. We don't claim all of Virginia. DMV, it's wherever the metro train stops. I guess is what we consider the DMV, right? But anyway, I'm a new podcaster, so I'm not going to throw shade at any city or county in Maryland or Virginia. I love my Maryland, love it, love, 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 love. But yeah, so you know, born in Liberia, raised in the U.S. My life has truly been a full circle journey of identity, faith, culture, resilience, and rediscovering who I really am. So after spending 20 plus years in the US, I made the life-changing decision to move back home to Liberia. And whew, baby, those 11 years changed me forever. Let me tell you why I decided to even move back to Liberia after being in the US for so many years. I lost my mother on Valentine's Day in 2010. The entire situation was just heavy, heartbreaking. Um, it was difficult. After a month of being on the ventilator and having doctors give us no hope at all, my sister and I made a very difficult decision. We made the decision to go ahead and pull the plug. And as you get to know me on the podcast, I will talk more about what happened with my mother, the situation, because it didn't just start there and didn't just even end there. But as I was going through this very difficult period, my cousin invited me. One of my favorite cousins in the world, Miss Coco. She had already moved back to Liberia, and she invited me to, and I quote, take a break, and go visit her, just kind of get away from it all. And let me tell you, sidebar. So, Liberia, and this is why you're even on this podcast, is to really learn about my sweet, sweet Liberia. The good, the not so good, the challenging, the resilience, the resilient of, just being a Liberian, the story of Liberia. You're going to learn a lot and you're going to grow to fall in love with what we call sweet Liberia. It's the reason why we call it sweet Liberia. But sidebar, so Liberia at the time was recovering from 25 plus years of one of the most brutal civil conflict, right? It was not a place that I wanted to take a break. And even though in 2010 they had already elected a president. Ooh, the first female elected president in Africa, and we'll talk about Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And I mean, there's so many beautiful things about Liberia. Oh, I can't wait to get into that. But anyways, so the country was recovering from this 20 plus, 25 plus years of civil conflict, and I remember telling my cousin that I didn't want to go because the image that being, I was already living in the US, and the image that we saw of Liberia even after the war was of a country that was toned down. I mean, not just psychologically, but like physically. You could see the buildings, you could see, they would take pictures of videos of buildings where it had like gunshot uh on the wall, and there was this picture or this video that CNN will always play when they talk about Liberia. It was a kid. I can't even say a young guy. It was a child holding a gun on a bridge. So, somebody say, "Come, take a break." You're like, mm-mm, nah, no, mm-mm. But what she did, so she asked me, and I was like, "No, I'm not coming." She called me one day at work and she said, "Look, I pay for a ticket for you. I have a ticket for you, a round trip ticket for you to come to Liberia. If you don't come, you're gonna pay my ticket. You're gonna pay me my money for my ticket." And if traveling outside of the US to whether it is any country in Africa or most places in Europe or even Asia, the tickets are very expensive. So, I was like, okay, I will go. The country is pretty safe, but it's still not I'm still not getting that take a break. So, but I went. I traveled. And that sweet ass little country caught my heart. It just kind of gripped it, right? So living in Liberia, reconnecting me to my roots, my culture, my people, and honestly, myself, it gave me a deeper understanding of purpose, of legacy, and what it really means to belong somewhere. But baby, this confidence, this voice, this boldness, it didn't magically appear overnight. Even as a young girl, I knew I wasn't meant to shrink myself for nobody. I grew up around people who always encouraged me to speak up, who challenged me through arguments on just about any subjects, right? And that that's really not the norm for most African child, and I'm generalizing here, most African child pre 1990. I would, I would go a step further. I would say even now, but I can say for a fact, this is my fact, that pre 1990, yeah, you don't be having no argument with no adults. The children go one place, the adults are sitting one place. So, but I grew up around people who actually encouraged me to speak up, not to be rude. And that's it's a big difference between, the two, but to speak up, to have, to stand up for what I believe in, and to also learn from people that I'm talking to. So I get here, of course, after we moved to the States, going to school, I befriended another young African student. I believe she was from Ghana. I really believe she was from Ghana. At 50 years, so a lot of things I can't remember, but plenty of things I can remember. But I know she was she was another African student, but I believe she was from Ghana. Um, and there weren't a lot of us, by the way. In like the late 80s, 90s, there weren't a lot of us in that area in Maryland, in the Maryland area. So I know we're a lot now. There's the huge population in that area, but there really wasn't. And if there were, people weren't speaking up and saying, "Oh, I'm from this place," right? And I will tell you a story about how I tried to distance myself from being from Liberia because people were teasing, the kids, they would see us, they would be like, "Oh, you you're African." Nobody ever called me an African booty scratcher, but I know other Africans who, the American children called that. So they would make fun about our accent, the huts we live in. I didn't even live in a hut, but I mean, we have huts in the villages in Africa, but we also have brick homes. We have a variety of stuff. So, and I never thought the hut homes were a problem. So, but anyway, they laugh at the accent, the huts that we had, and they would even say how we were running and living with wild animals. And I don't know if I was offended at that age or just confused because I looked at the kid dead in the face, this one boy who was just, I mean, he was like right yapping in my ear. Me and my friends will go to the lunchroom. We had to walk in a line to go to the lunchroom. I don't know if they still do that now. And he would stand behind us, you walk behind us deliberately and be talking about making like sounds of animals. And I just remember turning around, I was like, "What are you talking about?" The first time I ever saw a wild animal was right here in America in the zoo. So, is this Africa as well? And I don't know if he got confused or the boy just stopped dead in his track and kind of backed off. And I'm like, okay. But let me say this, that moment taught me something powerful, even at an early age, right? Never to be ashamed of where you come from. Never let people define your story for you. And never shrink your identity to make other people comfortable. Now, before that happened, I told you I would tell you a story of how I was really trying to distance myself from being Liberia. From being from Liberia, and I had these 2 African American women teachers. Well, I have one of them, but they taught, one class was just right across from the other, Mrs. Diggs and Mrs. Lamont. I would never forget their name. They were beautiful. They're 2 beautiful, Black women. They kinda reminded me of Claire Huxtable from The Cosby Show, and Mrs. Diggs was so kind to me. When I first got to the school, she asked me, she said, "Where are you from?" They already know where you're from. And I told her I was from Siberia. Baby, I don't know where I even heard Siberia from. I don't know if I luckily just made up a country that was a country that turned out to be a country. And she looked at me and said, No, 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 baby, you're not." Um, she sat me down, she talked to me, and again, these are some of the moments in your life that you start to think about how you just God just send so many good people around you to teach you. Because she very well could have just laughed it off and be like, "That little dumb kid," and move about her business. But no, she sat me down just like my grandmother probably would have, my aunties probably would have if they heard me saying some stupidness like that. My mother, even my older cousins would have sat me down, probably smacked me around, say, "You from where?" So those were some of the things that, when that little boy came back a couple of days later and started yapping in my ears, I was like, "Look, why exactly am I ashamed of Liberia? This idiot, number one, obviously he doesn't know anywhere in Africa because if he think wild animals is just running loose and all of us are living in huts, he got to be stupid." But I didn't mean to say stupid, but actually I did. This is my younger self talking. But I bring it back to my older self. Now, life has really blessed me with some beautiful experiences. It's taught me some great lessons from an early age to an adult. But it also, with age, it comes heartbreak. And my heartbreak started, of course, with the loss of my mother. And on another episode, I will explain the ordeal, what happened with my mother and how it's taken me 15, 16 years to really deal with the grief and deal with the situation, to acknowledge what happened and the people, to forgive them and move on, right? 15, 16 years it's taking me, but I will get into that. But while I was in Liberia, um, my second big loss would come during the Ebola era. I lost one of my best friends and sister during Ebola. And yeah, well, we didn't lose her because she had Ebola. We lost her because it was during a season filled with fear, with pain, and a lot of confusion. So being in Liberia, I remember when we first heard about Ebola. We were having an evening, like we would do all the time. We were at Boo. Her name was Boo. And I mean, just gorgeous. This girl spoke French. This girl was half Liberian, half Ghanaian. She spoke French. I mean, she was just a beautiful person, loved champagne, a kind soul, fun, just everything. So, and she could cook. She could cook. That's how we even became friends because of food. So, and a lot of people said we looked alike. And, I welcome that because she was gorgeous. So I was at Booth's house, and one of my cousins, was, I think it was the three of us. And we were having one of those lazy evenings after work where you just kind of sit around, you play music, Boo cooked food, you're sitting down, and you're strolling on your phone. And my cousin screamed. She go, "Ah!" And we're like, "What happened?" And she said, "Ebola, they found an Ebola case in Guinea." And I mean, we're looking at her like, "What the hell is a Ebola?" Now, Liberia is surrounded by borders Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, and Sierra Leone, right? And we border these countries and we trade a lot with these countries. We are located in an area called the ECOWAS area, which is was meant to be borderless. So you have all these countries, you're supposed to move around freely, and that's exactly what we do. We trade, we do a lot of market. You bring goods from Guinea to Liberia, so the border is just very kind of open, right? Not the best for security. It's not the best security, but I mean, it almost like family coming into your backyard, right? So where accent was like, "What is Ebola? What is Ebola?" And she's trying to explain Ebola, I guess, in a medical term. But of course, we're just looking at her like, number one, you're panicking. We still don't understand what this is. And I remember her just saying to us, she said, "Do you remember the movie Outbreak?" And I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Okay, it's similar to that." It's not really similar to it, but that was a good description to really, get us scared. And we're like, "Oh my goodness," so the country kind of went into panic mode. And anyway, the limited health facilities that we had could not sustain the level of patients, the number of patients that were showing up, because people were not only showing up for Ebola, people were showing up for malaria, which seemed to kind of merit. We didn't know what Ebola was, so we didn't know what to look for. But anyways, we ended up losing Boo because Boo got sick. No hospital would take her to treat her. They weren't sure if it was Ebola or not. You had to get tested, and the testing process was, I mean, the testing process was being developed while we were going through the whole ordeal of Ebola. So it was a very devastating time in the country. Um, so unfortunately, she passed. So lost Boo, and then I came back to the US, never really even dealing with that grief. Came back to the US. And again, it will come full circle that in many ways, um, that I thought I was running away from grief. But you don't run away from grief. You have to deal with it. because right then and there, life hit me again. When I moved back to the States, I just before I moved back, I lost my uncle who I was extremely close to in Liberia. He was more like a father figure to me when I was in Liberia. So my dad got sick in the US. So I came back to the US. I lost my dad. Following year, I lost my grandmother who raised me um, while my parents went to school. So my grandmother was really my mom as well. She was my second mom, in many ways, maybe even my first. And then a year later, I lost my sister. So within 3.5 years, I lost my father, lost my grandmother, lost my sister. There were moments where I honestly didn't know how I would keep up. I would keep going. But, and only but, through faith, through prayer, through grace, and the love of family and friends, I found strength that I didn't even know I had. Those experiences didn't destroy me, thankfully. What it did for me, it redefined me, it deepened me. Those experiences taught me how precious life really is. And that right there is the heartbeat of this podcast. This is a space where culture meets confidence, where faith meets real life, where healing meets laughter, and where we can keep it real. We have no filters, no pretending, no performing. Here, we want to talk about all of it. Growing up between Liberia and America, building businesses, motherhood, relationships, healing, travel, wealth, purpose, reinventing yourself, living softly and boldly, and learning how to truly enjoy life. You're working so hard to build. I mean, we work so hard. We need to enjoy it. And because one thing about me, I believe women, especially African women, God dug it, Liberian women, women over 40 and 50 deserve joy too. You know what? I'm not going to leave my men out, okay? Because, some men are going through it too. They're going through the same thing. So I invite the guys to listen. I invite the guys to get that joy, to join in with us, to give me the male perspective. Because what? We all deserve rest. We deserve peace. We deserve wealth. We deserve ease. We deserve happiness over guilt. And no, life does not end at 50. If anything, this is an upgraded version. Upgrade you. So whether you're here for the stories, the wisdom, the laughs, the life lessons, the encouragement, or guess what? You're just looking for a community where you feel you can be seen or you can get inspired. Trust me, you are absolutely in the right place. And as your newbie podcaster friend over here, thank you for taking this journey with me from the very beginning. That means more than you would ever know. But before you go, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of Liberian Girl Unfiltered. And listen, don't be shy. Leave a review, drop a comment, send me a message. Tell me what conversations you want us to get into next. Yeah, I would love to hear that. Please drop a note. Let me know, what do you want to talk about. Share this podcast with your friends, your sisters, your brothers, your cousins, your aunties, everybody, because we're building a whole community over here. Until next time, show up fully, show up softly, speak boldly, love deeply, live intentionally. And I am Stephanie Salamatu, and I cannot wait to see you in the next episode of Liberian Girl Unfiltered.